What is going on, guys? Today we are looking at inform Ederson. So if you didn't know, I managed to get him red, so pretty happy with that. Unfortunately, it's not my Rashford and it's not my Werner, so we do settle with Ederson, and not a bad keeper. I've had his untradeable in his gold version, which he was quite a decent keeper. Really nice speed on him. And now we've got his 89 version. He's only gone up by a +1, so there's not going to be a huge difference in terms of what he can actually do. And from what I've seen from other players, Courtois is the meta this year, or at the least the moment he's the meta. So we'll be trying him out and kind of judging him against Lloris, Ederson and Alisson so far, who I've done. I think I still need to do an Alisson review, but obviously he's in my team, so it's a bit unfortunate I do have an Alisson untradeable as well as now as a red Ederson. So we will be trying out all the keepers and trying to make my mind up on who is the best to have. I feel like Courtois is being used by a heavily amount of really top rated players. Van der Sar normally throws his kind of hat into the pile later on in the game. Normally you see that in quite a few people's teams. Normally his mid, I think his mid's normally the best, or his prime moment was obviously quite a decent one, but a little bit of coins, and it's a little bit later on this year, same as last time. Realistically though, for a goalkeeper, the review normally ends up a little bit shorter because there isn't too much to talk about in terms of stats and in terms of what they can actually do, because once you've kind of gone through the stats, you kind of just heavily talk about what they're normally like, and normally the shots that kind of go in like all the time tend to be the same for most keepers going across goal. But anyway, let's get into the stats and see what it's all about then. So we have got 65 speed, which is always a big one for me. I've always said on keeper reviews, I like having a decent amount of speed, and it's quite nice the fact that you can actually now have a chem style that does get up speed, but unfortunately the basic is a very good chem style for a keeper. It gets up everything bar from speed, so it's very hard to kind of go away from that. So for instance, when we look at Ederson, and we will look at him in the final review with all of these chem styles, if you was to put a basic on him or leave him as a basic, he has 92 diving, 89 handling, 99 kicking, 89 reflex, 66 speed, which goes up by a +5 with acceleration, and 93 positioning. So this year only reflex doesn't actually go up at all. That for me is a really good card there. If I was to go with the cat, or no, it's not, it's the shield, which gets a +6 on the speed, it only gets up his kicking. So you've got to kind of outweigh is his stats around him good enough to keep him by, to have a little bit more speed added onto him and really make him that fast keeper. And I think it works for people who are necessarily quite a reaction reflex kind of save keepers, because then you've got a bit more speed to kind of go across him. It just means that the kind of diving, handling, reflex, positioning all takes a hit because of that. In terms of his price, he's coming in at 94,000 coins. I still think he will drop. I feel like the price, if you're going to buy anybody, and if you really can't wait, at least can't wait for a couple more weeks when Black Friday happens, that's what I'm referring to, definitely wait till 6 PM, 7 PM tomorrow, just because this is going to, he is going to drop. He is definitely going to drop. I feel like he's going to be an easily packed one, just because he's got a high rating. People will think, oh, we've got a good player out of this, but he is a goalkeeper, and we know how much goalkeepers are actually packed in game. In terms of everything else, he's 6'2", relatively good height, 3-star weak foot, 1-star skill. There's not really else to talk about there. So let's go into some gameplay and see what he did. So in terms of Ederson and in gameplay, honestly, he's just a decent player overall. I felt like he was quick to save stuff. He's got the traits of rushing and coming out for corners, and that's always what he is. He's a very mobile keeper. Shot stopper wise, not bad. As you come that close, to be honest, he's always going to save that. I don't think anyone kind of doesn't expect a keeper to save it if he's pretty much blank range. Also, moving the keeper is always a nice one. He's pretty good at that, and obviously there is some moments that I've probably moved in the correct way and he's just not done it. So I've moved him this way, goes under his legs. I've moved him, I've got him in position, and unfortunately the position of him, he's just not saved it. And a lot of the time, the couple of matches that I played with him, they're just smashing it at him. So he's really not going to have too many issues actually saving any of them. He's going really close. But going into his overall, he's a good player. He's a good goalkeeper. I feel like if you got him reds, I wouldn't be too disappointed with that. As an 89 rated keeper, if you really didn't fancy him later on down the line, when you get an icon keeper, a Courtois in form, an Ederson in form, if you wanted to swap him out, he's a nice player to have as an SBC fodder if you got him red or if you got him untradeable in some aspect. Other than that, would I buy him? I probably wouldn't buy him for 94. If I was looking at prices for him, I'd probably go a little bit cheaper. I'd probably say 70, maybe under. If we go into positions, just because we've got the screen up now, if we go into positions goalkeeper, and then we go by highest to lowest, because we'll get rid of any of the extinct, because there's just no point talking about them. We've got Courtois at 102. If he is considered the real meta of keepers, for me, that's not a bad little price difference, because if you're willing to pay 94 for Ederson, I would go that 6 to 8k more for Courtois and really be the meta. In terms of like lower rated or at least non-special versions, Alisson is cheaper than Ederson's in form, is one higher, and I think the main difference is just that speed. That is really the only difference, and I think for me that's why Ederson, especially his inform, would go a little bit above in terms of his second card. Even if it is a +1, it's still a plus on everything, and that's why for me I like informed keepers. I always love the team of the year because they tend to have pretty jacked out speeds, pretty jacked out stats throughout, and you can kind of keep him for the whole of the year, and more than likely I get him untradeable anyway. In terms of other keepers that we need to try, Ter Stegen was always a good one last year. Oblak doesn't seem too bad. Lloris was decent. De Gea, a little bit off it this year, I think, even though his speed's actually decreased quite a lot. Lloris is probably the next one in terms of speed next to him. What is Courtois' speed? 46. See, in my eyes, that would mean that he shouldn't be the meta. But we've got to give him a go. We've got to give him his fair share. So we will be bringing that out, I think, either on Monday or Tuesday. Obviously, the reviews will kind of lapse round as we do have a promo this weekend. So we will be doing plenty of them. And I've got so many more informs to go. But Ederson, as an overall, not a bad player at all. I feel like he definitely fits into a lot of teams. Cracking link. You can't argue with the Brazilian link. We've got Carlos Alberto, who is one of a cracking links anyway. You can get him on 10 straight off the bat. Laporte, you can get him on a strong link. Virgil, you can get a weak link. Other than that, I'd probably be looking at a low tier kind of BPL team or PL team. I keep forgetting it's not Barclays anymore. Or you can get someone like Diego Carlos to link him if you just want to get him on 7 or 8. But bar from that, hopefully you did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you smash that like button, and I'll see you all next.